Daniel Reyes, 35, had it all planned. After working overtime for months, I decided to surprise my wife, Harper, 33, for her birthday. She was spending the weekend in Aspen with her younger sister, Sloan, for a spa getaway. I told her I couldn't make it due to work, but the truth was, I had Friday off. I wanted to make her birthday special, show up with her favorite almond cake from a boutique bakery in Boulder, take her out to a reserved spot at a cozy alpine restaurant, even packed her favorite emerald dress. Then the storm hit. A late March blizzard swept across Colorado. Roads shut down. Visibility dropped. But I didn't care. I'd made a reservation 2 months in advance and driven through worse for less. So I white-knuckled my way through the Rockies in a battered Subaru, passing 3 wrecks on I-70. 9 grueling hours later, I pulled into Sloan's snowy driveway, exhausted but excited. Cake in hand, I pushed open the door and stopped cold. From the hallway, I heard Harper's voice. "I swear to God, if he crashes that car, I could finally cash out on that life insurance," she laughed. Sloan snorted. "Or at least enjoy a few months of silence." They laughed. I didn't. I stood there, frozen, like the snow caked on my coat. I quietly set the cake down on the counter and walked back out. I didn't slam the door. Didn't announce myself. Just left. The next morning, I was gone. I didn't answer her texts. Didn't call back when she finally noticed I'd vanished. 3 weeks passed before she started saying she didn't mean it. That she was just venting. But there are things you can't unhear, especially when no one thought you were listening. We've been married 7 years. High school friends turned lovers. Got back together at a mutual friend's wedding. We bought a modest ranch-style house in Denver. 2 cars. Weekend getaways. We weren't rich, but we were good, or so I thought. 6 months ago, Harper changed. Sloan and her flashy new friends, the Instagram trips, the designer bags, the hints that our house was too basic, the sideways comments about my job. I chalked it up to stress. Now, I see it for what it was, her checking out. She told me I never surprised her anymore. But I did. Just once. And that surprise was enough to show me the truth. I drove back through the storm with no cake, no wife, and no illusions. But I kept thinking about Harper's face when I'd walk through the door. That smile she used to have. This would be worth it, right? I reached Sloan's neighborhood around 4 p.m. The streets were blanketed in white, and the plows hadn't touched their cul-de-sac yet. I had to park a block away and hike in, ankle-deep in snow, cake box balanced in one hand, duffel bag over my shoulder. By the time I reached the porch, my jeans were soaked to the knee and my fingers numb. The front door was unlocked. I stepped inside and was instantly greeted by warmth and laughter. I paused in the entryway, wiping snow from my boots, about to call out. That's when I heard my name. Harper was mid-sentence. From Daniel? Nothing. Not even a happy birthday. Sloan said something muffled, her voice lighter. Harper again, this time clearer. He texted this morning saying he was stuck at work. Probably still is. In this storm? Sloan replied. Most offices sent people home hours ago. Well, he's probably just curled up on the couch with those headphones on, playing that dumb strategy game again, Harper said, voice dripping with disdain. I froze, the cake box trembling in my hand. That wasn't playful teasing. That was venom. At least he's not here ruining your birthday weekend, Sloan chimed in. I should have walked in right then. I wish I had. Instead, I stood there, invisible, listening. God, can you imagine? Harper laughed. He'd drag us to some fancy dinner, tell the same stories he always does, and get that pitiful little look when I want to go out tomorrow night without him. My throat tightened. At least he's out of the way, Sloan said. Roads are a mess. My friend's husband got stranded on I-70 for hours. There was a beat of silence. Then Harper said it. I hope he crashes. My breath caught. I could use the insurance, she added with a snort. I must have made a sound because they both went quiet. I thought I'd been spotted. But then Sloane replied, casually, or at least a few weeks of peace and quiet. They both laughed. Real, belly-deep laughter. I didn't think. I just walked into the kitchen, set the cake on the counter, and turned back toward the door. Their faces drained of color. Harper said my name. I didn't answer. Just stepped back into the cold. And closed the door behind me. Back to my car. I didn't drive away immediately. Just sat there in the silence, snow melting into my coat, heart pounding like it was trying to escape. Maybe 20 minutes passed before I even managed to put the key in the ignition. My phone buzzed nonstop. By the time I finally glanced at the screen, 17 missed calls. 38 texts. All from Harper. I read none of them. Instead, I drove to the nearest motel off the highway. Paid $85 for a room that smelled like cheap cologne and lingering regret. I shut the door, dropped my bag by the wall, and collapsed onto the stiff mattress. Stared up at the ceiling fan until the blades blurred. At sunrise, I turned my phone back on. 29 missed calls. 63 texts. Still didn't open any of them. I just messaged my best friend, Theodore. Something happened with Harper. Need a place for a few days. Theo, MVP as always, responded in seconds. Doors unlocked. Beers in the fridge. I made the 9-hour drive back to Denver. Straight through. No music. No stops longer than gas. When I got home, I packed 3 suitcases, clothes, important documents, some keepsakes. Harper was still in Aspen with Sloane. I moved fast, before she got any ideas. That was 3 days ago. I haven't spoken to her. Not once. Not for her lack of trying, though. She's called from 4 different numbers, left voicemails that swing from sobbing to screaming. She even showed up at my office yesterday. I wasn't there. Called in sick. Today, I went to the bank and moved half of our joint savings into a new account under my name. Froze our shared credit cards. Changed my email passwords, Netflix, even the garage code. Told my boss I needed to work from home for a week. Family emergency. Vague enough not to invite questions. It's been mechanical, almost clinical. But inside? I'm unraveling. My brain won't stop playing that moment in Sloane's kitchen over and over. God, I hope he crashes. I could use the insurance. Who says that about someone they claim to love? And the laughter, actual laughter, over the idea of me dead or hospitalized? That's not something you can unhear. Now our friends are checking in, parroting Harper's line about a big misunderstanding. Classic deflection. One of them even texted, whatever it is, you two can work through it. Didn't ask for my side. Didn't care. Even Theo doesn't know the full story. He hasn't asked. Just keeps the fridge stocked and gives me space. Last night, I finally opened a few of her texts. They followed a pattern. Confusion. Where are you? Defensiveness. It was just a joke. Anger. Answer me. Manipulation. I'm scared. Please respond. I read them all. Then I turned off my phone again. Then came the threats. If you don't call me back, I'm calling the police and reporting you missing. Followed by the self-pity. I can't believe you do this to me on my birthday weekend. Not one genuine apology. Not one single moment of accountability. No acknowledgement of how absolutely twisted her words had been. After reading those, I blocked her number. I'm not ready to talk to her. Maybe I never will be. Today, I met with a financial advisor, Milton. Guy came recommended by a coworker who quietly went through a divorce last year. We spent 2 hours combing through our finances. I thought I had a decent handle on our accounts. I didn't. Turns out Harper's been spending between $700 and $800 a month on online shopping for the past year. Mostly clothes and self-care junk. There's also a store credit card I never even knew existed, with a $3,200 balance. All in her name. But still. Milton helped me lay out a strategy to separate our finances. Clean and legal. No drama. But it's going to be a cold splash of reality for her. I left enough in our joint account to cover the next mortgage payment and this month's utilities. After that, she's on her own. I'm not trying to destroy her financially. I just need her to understand that actions have consequences. Words have weight. And some things, like joking about your husband dying, aren't something you get to take back with a few crying emojis and a late-night voicemail. Still, part of me, maybe the old version of me, keeps asking, am I overreacting? Maybe she was just venting. Maybe it really was some joke. But then I remember her tone. Flat. Careless. Cold. And the laughter afterward. That awful, effortless laughter. And I know, I feel in my gut, that I'm not overreacting. I'm finally reacting. Theo says I should talk to her. For closure, at least. He might be right. But not yet. I'm still sorting through the wreckage of what I thought we were. Tomorrow makes 4 days of silence from me. Her sister Sloane called earlier. I didn't pick up. Then Lydia, our neighbor, texted to say Harper was crying on the front step. Apparently, she figured out I changed the garage code. Part of me felt a flicker of guilt. But most of me didn't. What keeps me up isn't even the insurance line. It's the laughter. Like my pain was entertainment. Like my life meant less than the punchline. I've also been thinking about that life insurance policy we took out 3 years ago. $1.5 million. Not a fortune, but enough to tempt someone with no soul. Calling the company tomorrow to change the beneficiary. Theo's setting me up with his buddy, a divorce lawyer. We're grabbing coffee in the morning. Not saying that's where this ends. But I need to know what my options are. As for what's next, honestly, I'm still figuring that out. Some days, part of me wants to disappear. Change my number. Move to the Pacific Northwest or somewhere no one knows me. Just hit reset. Start over. But that feels like running. Like I'd be giving her the last word. And another part of me, maybe the sharper, colder part, wants confrontation. Wants to look her in the eye and say it out loud. I hope he crashes. I could use the insurance. Wants her to feel 1/10 of the gut punch she gave me. But mostly, I just want the hollow in my chest to go away. I want to stop seeing her face every time I close my eyes. I want to stop hearing her laughter echoing in the back of my skull. So for now, I'm doing the only thing I can, taking it one day at a time. Keeping quiet. Making moves. Letting her stew in the silence. Letting her wonder what I know, where I am, and what comes next. If anyone's still following, thanks for letting me get this out. Sometimes it's easier to talk to strangers online than to people who know your face and try to solve your pain like it's a puzzle. Still here. Still standing. Still breathing. Daniel. Update. Quick recap if you're just tuning in, I, 35M, drove 9 hours through a snowstorm to surprise my wife Harper, 33F, at her sister Sloane's cabin for her birthday. Instead of a warm welcome, I overheard Harper laughing about how she hoped I crashed so she could cash in on the life insurance. I left the cake on the counter. Walked out. Been staying at my buddy Theo's place in Denver ever since. Sorting through bank accounts, freezing cards, and trying to breathe. It's been a week since I posted. 10 days since I heard those words I can't unhear. They say anger fades. That eventually, rage gives way to clarity. I'm still waiting. Last Wednesday, day 4 of silence, I woke up with a mission. Not a healthy one. Not wise. But it felt necessary. At 9:30 a.m., when I knew Harper would be at work, I went home. Our house. With 3 empty suitcases and Theo's beat-up Ford Ranger. The house looked untouched. Her coffee mug still on the counter. Junk mail stacked by the door. But something had shifted. It felt like a replica of my life instead of the real thing. Like I was walking onto a soundstage. I started in the bedroom. Packed everything that was mine, except for the shirts she used to pick out. Left those hanging, limp and forgotten, like the version of me she dressed up to fit her image. I took my grandmother's old silver watch from the dresser, still ticking, somehow. Grabbed my journals from the bookshelf, and the external hard drive with all our digital photos. Petty? Maybe. But I paid for the damn thing, and most of the memories on it were mine to begin with. In the office, I unplugged my gaming setup. Left the desk, we bought it together, but took the chair. I'd bought that chair after Harper complained about the squeaky wheels on the old one. She hated that sound. I pulled open the filing cabinet and found our marriage certificate. Took that, too. Not sure why. Maybe for closure. Maybe just to prove to myself that it all really happened. Then I moved through the house like a ghost with a checklist. My books. My vinyl records. My toolbox from the garage. That strange, abstract metal sculpture I picked up at a summer art fair. Harper always said it was hideous. I loved it more because of that. For hours of quietly erasing my fingerprints from our life. What I didn't take. Anything we chose together. The gray sectional we debated over for weeks. The kitchen table where we shared breakfasts, birthdays, fights, apologies. The bed we laughed in, argued in, and once, thought about starting a family in. I left all our framed photos exactly where they hung. My face smiling back at her from every wall, every hallway. Let her feel the echo of what she lost every time she walks past. Before leaving, I did 3 small things. First, I dropped the thermostat to 62. Harper used to complain if it was below 70, claimed it made the house feel like a meat locker. Second, I unscrewed the fridge light bulb. A minor irritation, but one that'd catch her off guard in the middle of the night. Third, I changed the Wi-Fi password to I hope he crashes 2023 and left the router unplugged. Call it petty. I call it poetic. As I was locking the front door, Lydia, our neighbor, stepped outside with her mail. Her eyes flicked from Theo's truck to the pile of boxes inside it. Her brows rose. Just taking some stuff to donate, I said with a shrug. She didn't believe me. I saw it in her eyes. But she just gave me a quiet nod and disappeared back into her house. Midwestern manners. Don't pry. Don't push. That day, I was grateful for it. Back at Theo's, we unloaded everything into the garage. I kept only 2 suitcases inside. He handed me a beer when we finished and said, "Sometimes life just kicks you in the teeth." No judgment. Just the truth. Thursday was finance day. Milton had all the numbers pulled. A spreadsheet from hell. And the stomach ached to match. Turns out Harper had been spending way more than I ever realized. Not just the store credit card Milton flagged last time, but cash withdrawals, too. $300 here. $500 there. All out of our joint account. Over $12,000 in the past year. No receipts, no obvious purchases. Just gaps. When I asked Milton if there was a way to track it, he gave me a look that said you already know the answer. So, we drafted a formal letter. Not divorce papers, not yet, but an official declaration that I would no longer be financially responsible for any new debt she racks up moving forward. We had it delivered to her office by courier. Harsh? Maybe. Effective? Definitely. I also went through and canceled all our shared streaming services. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, gone. Changed the passwords to our cloud storage and backed up my own copies of everything important. Rerouted all my mail to a P.O. box I opened that morning. Every step was like cutting one more thread from the tangled mess we'd built together. By Friday, I finally looked at my social media. 17 Facebook messages. 34 Instagram DMs. Even my old, mostly dead Twitter account had pings. Friends checking in. Friends asking what happened with Harper. People forming opinions without context. So I posted one thing, a photo of a half-eaten birthday cake sitting lonely on a kitchen counter. No caption. No explanation. Just the cake. Within an hour, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Friends texting. Harper called 6 times in under 20 minutes. Jill, her best friend, sent me a DM saying Harper was really worried and just wants to know you're safe. I ignored all of it. That afternoon, I met with Ramon, my manager, to let him know I needed a little time. He surprised me. No awkward questions. Just a nod. How long? He asked. 2 weeks, I said, but I can still handle the Wilson project remotely. He smiled, clapped me on the shoulder. Sometimes distance is clarity. It was the first advice that didn't feel hollow. Then came Saturday. I was standing in the freezer aisle at the grocery store, trying to remember which frozen pizza Theo likes, when I heard someone say my name. I turned and saw Sloane, basket in hand, face pale like she'd seen a ghost. She launched into it. Harper's worried sick. Everyone's concerned. Please talk to her. I didn't say a word. So her tone shifted, hard. You're being childish. It was just a joke. Between sisters. She said I was blowing everything out of proportion. I finally spoke. I asked her, flat out, if she genuinely thought wishing your husband dead for the life insurance was normal sisterly banter. I asked if she'd feel okay hearing her boyfriend say something like that about her. I asked if she even realized that so-called joke was the final beat in a slow crescendo of Harper's growing disdain for me. Sloane didn't have answers. Just stumbled through half-formed excuses. Something about context and miscommunication. I put the frozen pizza back. Left my half-filled cart in the middle of the aisle and walked out. Petty? Sure. Satisfying? Absolutely. Sunday was quiet. Theo had some of his buddies over to watch the Broncos game. They knew something was off. The usual energy around me wasn't there. But no one pried. They just handed me beers and made space on the couch. For 3 hours, I laughed at bad plays and trash-talked referees like everything was fine. It almost felt normal. Then Monday rolled in, and reality came with it. My official leave from work started. No more Zoom calls. No more deadlines. Just me, living out of a spare bedroom at my best friend's house while my home, the one Harper and I shared for 5 years, sat half empty across town. When I checked my phone that morning, there were 15 missed calls. All from her. I finally listened to one voicemail. Her voice was rough. Tired. She said she hadn't been sleeping. That the house felt wrong without me. That she noticed more of my stuff missing every day and it scared her. Then she asked if I was ghosting our entire marriage. That phrase, ghosting, landed wrong. Like she thought this was just another modern breakup. Like we were a couple who fizzled after a few bad dates. Not two people who built a life together. It hardened something in me. I texted Theo that I was going for a drive and ended up parked outside the house. My house. Her car wasn't in the driveway. Porch light was still on, even in daylight. Overflowing wine bottles in the recycling bin. I didn't go inside. Just sat there, wondering how many mortgage payments I had left. Whether to sell the place. Whether we'd become strangers dividing equity instead of dreams. Tuesday brought another gut punch. Credit card alert, $2, 100 charged at 3 boutiques. Retail therapy? Or a middle finger? Didn't matter. I reported the card stolen. New ones headed to my P.O. box. Another clean cut. Another bridge burned. That night, I finally posted something more than a photo. Not about Harper. Nothing direct. Just a simple status update. Sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same. Vague enough to mean anything. But for those who knew the context, it hit like a flare in the dark. Harper would see it. So would her friends. And with that, the narrative quietly shifted, from Daniel's having a meltdown to something serious must have happened. Wednesday marked 2 full weeks since I stood in Sloane's kitchen and heard the words I still couldn't scrub from my memory. 2 weeks of silence from me. 2 weeks of increasingly panicked messages from Harper. That afternoon, I met with a lawyer Theo recommended. Another Milton, because of course. Same name as my financial advisor, which made things a little confusing. But this Milton was sharp, grounded, and didn't sugarcoat anything. Since we didn't have kids, divorce would be relatively straightforward. But dividing the house, assets, and our tangled accounts? Messy. He suggested we start with a formal separation agreement. Give everything some room to breathe. A cooling-off period, legally structured. I agreed. He drafted the papers on the spot. Said they could be served as early as Friday. The momentum was shifting. Picking up speed with every passing day of silence. Then came Thursday. I was working remotely from Theo's dining table, half focused on an email thread, when the doorbell rang. Theo answered, then came back with a strange look on his face. "Harper's outside," he said. "She's crying. Asking to see you." I froze, coffee halfway to my lips. Theo looked like he didn't know if he should be holding a tissue or a baseball bat. "Do you want me to send her away, or let her in?" Neither option felt good. Sending her away might make me look like the bad guy. Letting her in? I wasn't ready for the excuses. The tears. The performance. But I nodded. Theo let her in. She looked wrecked. Hair tangled. Eyes puffy and raw. Same sweater from days ago. She just stood in the doorway, staring at me like I was a ghost she wasn't sure she was ready to see. I didn't get up. Didn't speak first. She did. "Are you really having me served with separation papers?" Apparently, Milton's assistant had called to confirm the address, and Harper had pushed until they spilled why. So much for subtlety. "Yes," I said simply. Her voice cracked. "Why won't you talk to me?" I met her eyes. "Because there's nothing left to explain." "I heard what I heard," I said quietly. Harper shook her head, eyes glassy. "It's not what you think." I was stressed. Work's been awful, bills piling up, and Sloane always drags out the worst in me. She added that it was just dark humor, one too many glasses of wine, venting in a stupid moment. I asked, "Do you even remember exactly what you said?" She paused. Too long. Then said, "I think I said I wished you'd just crash, on the couch." You must have misheard. That's when I pulled out my phone. Yeah, I had a recording. Not because I planned to. I'd been using the voice memo app on the drive, logging birthday gift ideas to go along with the cake. Never turned it off when I arrived at Sloane's. Pure accident. Or fate. Or something in between. I tapped play. Her voice filled the room. "God, I hope he crashes. I could use the insurance." Then Sloane's, or at least a few months of silence. And finally, the laughter. Cold. Effortless. The color drained from Harper's face. Her mouth dropped open slightly as if the sound itself had smacked her. She reached for the phone. I pulled it back. She started crying harder. Swore it was out of context. That she didn't mean it. That she'd never hurt me. So I asked one question. Would you have ever told me about that conversation if I hadn't heard it myself? Her silence was loud enough to answer. Theo, who'd made himself scarce when she arrived, stepped back into the room then. He cleared his throat awkwardly. Maybe this should wait. Until everyone's had time to cool down, he offered, trying to diffuse the weight in the room. Harper ignored him. Her focus was fixed entirely on me. She launched into a monologue, how much she'd realized in the past 2 weeks. How much she needed me. How empty the house felt. How she hadn't been able to sleep in her bed alone. How she'd spend the rest of her life making it up to me if I'd just come home. Tears. Shaking hands. A voice that cracked like it belonged in a courtroom drama. 2 weeks ago, I might have believed her. But something in me had shifted. I'd spent 14 days not just thinking about what she said, but why she said it. The coldness. The contempt. The person laughing at the idea of me dead. That wasn't the woman I married. So I looked her in the eyes, and told her the truth. I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. The separation papers weren't about revenge or punishment. They were about drawing a boundary, giving myself space to breathe and figure out if there was anything left worth salvaging. Harper didn't take it well. She accused me of throwing away 7 years over one stupid comment. Said everyone says things they don't mean when they're stressed. That I was being cruel for cutting her off, for disappearing without giving her a chance to explain. I just sat there, letting her words bounce off me. Not fighting. Not engaging. Just letting her vent until the fire burned out. When she finally went quiet, I told her the separation papers would be delivered tomorrow and she should read them carefully, before deciding what she wanted to do next. She left in tears. Mascara running down her face. Hands shaking. After the door clicked shut, Theo came back in, holding 2 beers. He handed me one and muttered, "That was the most uncomfortable thing I've witnessed since my parents split." Dark humor. I appreciated the effort. That night, sleep didn't come easy. I kept seeing her face the moment she heard the recording. The way it twisted, not with regret, but with fear. Panic. Not over what she'd said, but over the fact that I knew. Friday morning, the papers were delivered as planned. By that afternoon, Sloan was already posting vague statuses online, something about men who blow things out of proportion and ruin good marriages over misunderstandings. Right. Funny how people close ranks even when they know someone messed up. But then, something unexpected. Harper's best friend Jill sent me a message. Short. Simple. Said she'd finally heard the full story, what Harper actually said. Said she was sorry I was going through this. That she'd known Harper since college and had seen this behavior before. The sharp remarks. The cruel jokes. Said she once tried to talk to Harper about it, but got shut down. It was the first message from anyone in Harper's world that felt like real acknowledgement. Like maybe I wasn't crazy for being hurt. I didn't reply. But it stayed with me. Maybe this wasn't a one-off. Maybe that moment in the kitchen was just the clearest glimpse yet of something I'd been choosing not to see for years. The weekend came and went quietly. Theo had a date, so I had the house to myself. Ordered pizza. Watched that sci-fi series Harper always rolled her eyes at. Tried not to think about the life I thought we were building. Sunday night, Harper texted me. Just 2 words, "I'm sorry." No excuses. No follow-ups. No "can we talk?" Just those 2 words. I didn't respond. But I stared at the screen a long time before I turned off my phone. Monday morning came. Day 18. 18 days into this strange, fractured new version of my life. I woke up and found Harper sitting in her car outside Theo's house. Not knocking. Not texting. Just parked there, staring at the front door like it held the answer to everything. Theo spotted her first through the kitchen window, sipping his coffee. He nudged me toward the glass. "That yours?" I called her. "What are you doing?" I asked, keeping my voice flat. "I just needed to see you," she said softly. "Not talk. Not come inside. Just know you're really okay." She promised she wouldn't approach. Wouldn't make a scene. Just needed visual confirmation. It was unsettling. But, if I'm being honest, something about it hit me in the gut. Concerning? Yes. But also, human. I told her to go home. This isn't helping either of us, I said. She asked if I'd read her last message. I told her I had. Do you believe I'm sorry? She asked. I hesitated. I don't know, I said, and I meant it. Then came the question I'd been dreading. Are you filing for divorce? There was no easy way around it. So I told her the truth. I haven't decided yet. She stayed in her car for almost another hour. Never got out. Eventually, she pulled away. Theo and I spent the rest of the afternoon changing the locks on my house, just in case. Another quiet but clear act of separation. One more thread cut. Today marks 3 weeks since that night in Sloane's kitchen. 3 weeks of sorting through the wreckage of what I thought was a steady, safe marriage. I'm not sleeping much. And I miss things I didn't expect to miss. The expensive coffee she insisted on buying. Her tone-deaf singing echoing through the bathroom every morning. The ridiculous pile of fuzzy socks that somehow always ended up on my side of the bed. But I don't miss the tension. The edge in her voice when things didn't go her way. The passive digs disguised as jokes. The pressure to constantly manage her moods. The separation papers have been signed. Filed. We're now officially in Colorado's 6-month legal separation period, still married, but living independently. 3 weeks ago, I was sure there was no going back. Now? I'm not so sure. Not because I've forgiven her. But because disentangling a life is harder than I imagined. My phone lights up. Harper, can we meet? Neutral location. Just to talk. Please. I stare at it for a long time. And I genuinely don't know what I'm going to say. Part of me wanted to hear her out. Part of me knew it would probably just delay the inevitable. Most of me? Just tired. Tired of the tension, the overthinking, the endless spiral of what-ifs. Still, I figured I'd say yes. If only to tell her, face to face, all the things I've been unloading to strangers on the internet these past few weeks. I'll update if anything actually shifts. And thanks to everyone who commented on the last post, even those of you who suggested putting glitter in her shampoo bottle. Some of you need therapy, but the chaos made me smile. Appreciate the solidarity. Still standing. Still breathing. Daniel. Final update. It's been exactly 25 days since I walked out of that cabin and left the birthday cake sitting on the counter. 25 days of silence, legal paperwork, emotional minefields, and more adulting than I ever wanted to do in one stretch. This will probably be the last time I write about it. There's only so many ways you can dissect a dead marriage before even the internet gets bored. First off, thanks for the support. And no, I didn't take the advice about putting sardines in her car vents. You people are ruthless. Now, the coffee shop. I got there 15 minutes early. Anxiety makes me punctual. Chose a corner table at a place downtown called Groundwork, quiet, but not too quiet. Enough noise to feel normal. 2 p.m. on a Thursday. I ordered a black coffee I didn't even want and waited. Harper arrived exactly on time. Not fashionably late like she used to be. She had her hair done, light makeup, and was wearing that soft blue sweater I gave her last Christmas. It was all deliberate. I could see the effort. The first thing she said wasn't hi or how are you. It was, I've lost 7 pounds since you left. She just dropped that in like it was supposed to be some kind of emotional currency. Stress weight, as apology leverage. Classic Harper. I ignored it. Cut straight to the point. Why did you want to meet? She pulled out actual notes. Handwritten. On a yellow legal pad. This from the woman who used to forget what she went into the kitchen for. It almost made me laugh. Her first note? She was sorry. Deeply sorry. Said the words had been cruel, thoughtless. Said she didn't mean them. She blamed stress. Miscommunication. Too much wine. Said she thought I wasn't coming for her birthday, and Sloane was in her ear. I listened. Then I asked one thing: why did you laugh after you said it? She flinched, like I'd splashed cold water across her face. Said it was nervous laughter. Said Sloane always brought out her worst tendencies. That she'd been trying, stupidly, to sound edgy and chill in front of her sister. Said she didn't mean a word of it. Second point on her yellow legal pad, she admitted she'd taken our relationship for granted. That she got too used to the stability I created. Too comfortable. Stopped noticing what I did, and started focusing on what I didn't. Said she'd forgotten to be grateful. Third point, the last few weeks had been a wake-up call. She realized how much she leaned on me. Not just financially, though she was blunt enough to admit that was part of it, but emotionally, too. Said the house was too quiet. That she'd started talking out loud just to hear a voice. Fourth point. She wanted to try couples therapy. Said she'd already found someone. A therapist who specializes in trust recovery after betrayal. Even booked a preliminary appointment for next week. Would I please, consider it? Through all of it, I didn't say much. Just sipped my cold coffee and studied her face. Trying to see if the woman across from me, the one crying now, softly, was the same one who laughed at the idea of my death. Was this regret? Or just fear of being alone? When she finished her rehearsed pitch, she placed the notepad on the table. Finally looked me in the eyes. What are you thinking? She asked. I told her. I'm thinking about parallel universes. How, in another version of this life, I never drove through that storm. Never heard what you said. And I'd still be there, sleeping next to someone who could joke about me dying and not lose a wink of sleep over it. She started crying again. Not the dramatic sobs from the day at Theo's, this was quieter. Like the tears surprised even her. She wiped them with a napkin, like she was embarrassed by them. I laid out my terms. Not an argument. Just facts. The separation would last the full 6 months. I wouldn't move back in. I wasn't ruling out reconciliation, but I wasn't agreeing to therapy, not yet. I needed space. She nodded, slowly, like each word landed like a bruise. Then she asked, "Do you hate me?" Weirdest part? I didn't. I told her that. I still don't. There's pain. Disappointment. Anger. But not hate. And the look on her face? That surprised her most of all. She said it was almost worse that I didn't hate her. Because it meant I didn't care enough to feel anything that strong anymore. That hit harder than I expected. Because it wasn't entirely wrong. The conversation tapered off after that. We kept it civil, transactional. Agreed to handle all communication going forward through email, strictly practical things like the house, the bills, logistics. She'd keep covering the mortgage. Her name's still on it too. I'd continue splitting utilities until we reassessed everything at the 3-month mark. As we stood to leave, she paused. Can I hug you?" she asked quietly. I shook my head. She nodded like she expected that answer. No dramatics. Just gathered her legal pad and purse, then walked out of the café without looking back. I stayed in that booth for another 30 minutes, staring out the window. Thinking how surreal it was to have such a sterile, businesslike conversation with someone who once held my hand during a root canal. Someone who'd ugly cried in front of me. Who knew every awkward, ridiculous story from my past. 7 years. Boiled down to 4 bullet points on yellow paper. Life settled into its strange new rhythm after that. I asked Ramon to extend my remote work arrangement through the end of the month. He agreed without hesitation. Theo's spare room started feeling less temporary. I bought a mattress topper. Hung a few framed photos. Organized my side of the closet. Routine returned. Morning runs. Work. Gym 3 times a week. Evening dinners with Theo when our schedules lined up. The silence, strategic or not, seemed to trigger something in Harper. Less pleading, fewer texts. Just space. Then, unexpectedly, Sloane texted me. Not snarky or defensive like before. Just quiet. She admitted she'd been a bad influence. That her version of brutal honesty with Harper had morphed into passive-aggressive cruelty over the years. Said she was disgusted with herself for laughing that night in Aspen. Didn't ask for forgiveness. Just wanted to own her part. I didn't respond. But I took screenshots, not as ammo, just as validation. A reminder that I wasn't imagining the betrayal. Meanwhile, the financial tension was starting to show. Jill messaged again. Said Harper had canceled her spa membership. Was looking for a roommate, but didn't want to move anyone in. Still hoping you'll come home, Jill added. A gentle nudge. Framed as concern. But I saw it clearly. Emotional guilt, outsourced. Classic Harper. But I didn't take the bait. I thanked Jill for the update and told her, politely, that Harper was welcome to contact my attorney if she wanted to revisit any financial arrangements. Around day 30, something in Harper's tone started to shift. Her emails turned practical. Emotion-free. Focused on bills, mortgage splits, tax documents. She mentioned selling some of her designer clothes and handbags on resale apps. Even offloaded the impractical convertible she had to have last summer, the one she'd talked me into with phrases like "we deserve nice things." In one email, she casually mentioned looking into certification courses to boost her income potential. It was like watching someone mature and fast forward. And here's the weird part, I felt a flicker of pride. Not enough to swoop in and save her. But enough to recognize the change. Then, day 35 dropped something unexpected in my P.O. box. A thick envelope. Handwritten return address. Harper. Inside, a 10-page letter, front and back. And a USB drive. The letter was a full timeline of our relationship, told from her side. Every milestone, every rough patch. Raw and unfiltered. The lake proposal. Our first real fight, over her spending habits. The miscarriage in year 3 that we never really talked about, just existed around in silence. She admitted how her view of me shifted. From partner to provider. From provider to obstacle. Admitted to resenting how at peace I seemed with our life when she was always chasing the next thing. Admitted to comparing us to her flashy friends who lived on credit cards and Instagram filters. Even confessed to flirting with her coworker, Jason, last year. Swore nothing physical happened, but the emotional lines blurred. The USB? Audio recordings of her therapy sessions. Her therapist had apparently approved it. I only listened to one. Hearing her unpack our marriage to a stranger, hearing her genuinely struggle to explain why she said she hoped I'd crash, that was too much. Too real. I deleted the files. Placed the letter in my document box. Couldn't bring myself to toss it. Not yet. Day 40, another curveball. I ran into Lydia, our neighbor, at the hardware store. She mentioned Harper had been hosting some kind of weekly gathering at the house. Not parties. Something quieter. Meetings. 6 or 7 cars every Wednesday night, Lydia said. Same group. Curiosity got the better of me. That Wednesday, I parked 2 blocks down, out of sight, and waited. 7 women showed up between 6 o'clock and 6:30 that night. All around Harper's age. A couple I recognized, former co-workers, maybe a friend from her book club. The others were strangers. They trickled into the house, each carrying a notebook or a tote bag, hugging at the door like it was some kind of unofficial club. I didn't approach. That would have been weird. But curiosity got the better of me, so later that night, I texted Jill. Kept it casual. Asked how Harper was doing. What she'd been up to lately. Jill replied, she started a women's accountability group. It's focused on financial literacy and breaking toxic relationship patterns. She's been really into it. That was not what I expected. Then, around day 45, the tone online shifted. Sloane, who had been conspicuously quiet about our separation, posted a long, thoughtful status about supporting my sister through her awakening and helping her confront the patterns that no longer serve her. She tagged Harper. Harper replied with a simple, "Love you. But this journey is mine to share when I'm ready." That post caught attention. Mutual friends started reaching out, asking what was going on. The rumor mill spun into overdrive. Someone said Harper was in rehab. She wasn't. Someone else claimed I drained our accounts and left her with nothing. Also false. A third said we'd been having issues for years and the split was mutual. That one? Closer to the truth, but still incomplete. I kept quiet. Let the silence speak for itself. Then came day 50. For the first time since leaving, I went back to the house while Harper was home. I needed to grab my winter gear from the garage. Colorado spring was doing its usual thing, and we'd just gotten hit with a surprise 6 inches of snow. I texted ahead. She replied immediately, said of course, she'd be home working on a project. Pulling into the driveway felt surreal. The lawn was overgrown. Flower beds untouched. Little things that used to be mine to manage. Harper met me at the door. No drama. Just a nod and, "Take your time." Then she disappeared into the kitchen, where I saw she was painting, some kind of art or furniture, I couldn't tell. Inside, everything felt different. Smelled different, too. Less like my cologne. More like the diffuser I never liked but she always wanted. In the garage, my things were boxed neatly. Labeled. Even included the scarf I forgot and those gloves my mom gave me. As I loaded the boxes into the car, Harper stepped out. Coffee mug in hand. "Hey," she said. "No pressure, but, want to see what I've been working on?" "Just an offer." No pressure. Curiosity won. I followed Harper into the kitchen, where she'd set up a makeshift art studio on the old breakfast nook table. Paints, brushes, wood planks stacked neatly. She was making hand-painted signs, those farmhouse-style ones with inspirational quotes. The kind of thing she used to roll her eyes at in Target. She looked a little embarrassed. Said it was therapeutic, that it gave her something to do with her hands, and, surprisingly, she'd sold a few at the local farmer's market. We talked for maybe 15 minutes. Small talk. The weather. Her parents' anniversary coming up. The water heater making that knocking noise again, apparently still an issue. It was normal. Uncomfortably normal. Like two people who used to share a bed now tiptoeing around each other with practiced politeness. As I gathered my things to leave, Harper said something that stuck with me. She said she'd been reading about grief, and realized she was mourning our marriage at the same time she was trying to save it. Said the two processes kept tangling up in her head, one undercutting the other. I nodded. Told her I understood. Because I did. I'd been carrying the same contradiction. It was the most honest exchange we'd had in years. Day 60 brought some clarity, at least financially. I met again with Milton, my financial advisor, not the attorney. Still confusing. He pulled up the latest reports. Harper had been following through. No new debt on our shared accounts. Steady payments on her personal cards. Even paid off that store account I hadn't known about until all this started. Milton gently suggested it might be time to start thinking about long-term financial decisions, depending on whether I was leaning toward reconciliation. That was the moment I realized something. I hadn't actually thought about that decision in weeks. I'd been so focused on space, on not making emotional choices, that I'd been avoiding the choice. So I did what I always do when I feel overwhelmed. I made a list. Pros and cons. It didn't help. Some decisions don't fit in a spreadsheet. Day 70, Theo sat me down and told me he was getting serious with someone. Talk of moving in together, soonish. He said I could stay as long as I needed. But I heard the message behind it. That weekend, I toured apartments. Signed a 6-month lease at the second place I saw. 1 bedroom. Downtown. decent light. A fresh start. I emailed Harper. She replied with one line, "I understand. But the door here remains open." Day 75. Moving day. Theo showed up early, as promised, with coffee and a trailer hitched to his truck. 2 other friends joined us. 4 hours of hauling boxes and furniture up 3 flights of stairs, because naturally, the elevator was out of order. We were sore, sweaty, and borderline delirious by the time we finished. Ordered pizza, grabbed a 6-pack from the corner store, and ate sitting cross-legged in my new living room. No table yet, no couch, just a couple of folding chairs and takeout boxes on the floor. It felt good. Messy, real, mine. That night, alone in my quiet new apartment, I plugged in my external hard drive. Clicked open the folder labeled us. 7 years of photos. Vacations, holidays, birthday dinners, and lazy Sundays. Harper mid-laugh at something I couldn't remember. Harper asleep with her mouth slightly open, her hair a mess. Harper in those early days, looking at me like I was the whole damn sky. I didn't cry. I just sat there, letting it all settle into me, the weight of what we had, and what we'd lost. Day 80. An email from Harper. She asked if we could meet again. Said she wanted to talk about what happens when the 6-month separation ends. Still 3 months away, but she wanted to be prepared. I respected that. We met at a different coffee shop this time. Neutral ground. She looked good. Centered. Hair cut short to her shoulders. No dramatic makeup, just simple jeans, a sweater, worn-in boots. Her usual designer purse replaced with a canvas tote. The conversation was straightforward. She asked if I was leaning toward reconciliation or divorce. I told her honestly, I hadn't made up my mind. Then I asked her what she wanted. She said she wanted to try again, but only if I could truly forgive her. Not just say the words. Not hold resentment under the surface like a splinter. She said she was changing. Still evolving. And wanted to show me that version of herself, not just talk about it. I told her I believed her. That I was changing too. But I wasn't sure if our new versions still fit together. She nodded. That's fair. Then handed me a sealed envelope. Said it contained her proposed terms, both for reconciliation and, if it came to it, divorce. Told me to read it when I was ready. I opened it 3 days later. It was thoughtful. Clear. If we reconciled, 6 months of couples therapy before living together. Full financial transparency, on both sides. Regular check-ins about how we're doing. An annual State of the Union to talk openly about goals, disappointments, progress. Everything out in the open, no more quiet resentment, no more pretending things are fine when they're not. That was the reconciliation plan. If we divorced, it would be a clean split. Not a messy, court-dragged spectacle. Fair division of assets based on contribution, not a strict 50-50ths. She'd buy out my share of the house at full market value. No alimony either way. Just clean lines and minimal legal drama. It was logical. Unemotional. Mature. Completely unlike the Harper who, 3 months ago, laughed about hoping I'd crash. I emailed her back that night. Told her both sets of terms seemed fair. That I appreciated the thought she'd put into it. That I needed time. Her response was short, take all the time you need. Day 90. 3 months since I stood in Sloane's kitchen and heard the words that cracked our life wide open. 3 months of silence, distance, and, somehow, growth. Today I've been thinking about cake. That cake I left on the counter, untouched. The birthday it was meant to celebrate. The moment everything changed. This afternoon, I drove back to that bakery. Ordered the same one. Carried it to my apartment. Set it down on my kitchen counter. Then I took a photo. Texted it to Harper, the first direct message I'd sent her in 90 days. She called immediately. I let it go to voicemail. Then I cut myself a slice. Sat on my second-hand couch, fork in hand, and listened. No begging. No dramatics. Just her voice, calm and steady. She said she understood the symbolism. Said she would accept whatever decision I made. Said she was proud of how I'd carried myself through this, with dignity, not destruction. Said she was sorry. Again. Not expecting anything. Just owning it. Tomorrow, I meet with the lawyer. Not to file papers, yet. But to ask the real questions. What does reconciliation really look like when trust has been gutted? What would it take, not to go back, but to start over? Tonight, I'll finish this cake. Alone. Not because I'm lonely. But because some roads are meant to be walked solo. I still don't know if Harper and I have a future. The wound is deep. The fracture real. But I know this, whatever I choose, I'm choosing it with clarity, not fear. Maybe we needed to break to finally see what we're made of. Or maybe some things, once shattered, are meant to stay that way. Either way, I'm at peace. The man who left that cake behind 90 days ago would have set himself on fire to keep Harper warm. The man writing this now? He knows his own worth. I'll post one final update when the decision is made. But for now, thank you, internet strangers. Your comments, your chaos, even your terrible advice, it's helped. Still standing. Still breathing. Stronger. If you've made it this far, thank you. You've listened to a stranger sort through the wreckage of something that once meant everything to him. And while I've tried to stay grounded, I won't lie, there were days when your comments felt like the only hand reaching into the darkness. So now, I'm asking for one more thing. Tell me what you think. Not just about Harper and me. But about healing, about trust, about what makes a second chance worth it, or what makes walking away the strongest move a person can make. I don't need judgment. I need honesty. Clarity. And maybe a little hope. What would you do in my shoes? What have you done in yours? I never imagined I'd be here, writing my life out to strangers online. But this space has been something between a mirror and a lifeline. So drop your thoughts. Your stories. Your hard-earned wisdom. What helped you breathe again? What taught you your worth? And if you're going through something similar, hear this. You're allowed to walk away from people who don't protect your heart. You're allowed to demand more than survival. You deserve relationships that feed your soul, not ones that drain it. Whether you choose to rebuild or start over, choose from strength, not fear. The man I used to be? He would have burned himself out trying to save something broken. The man I'm becoming? He knows peace matters more than pretending everything's okay. So comment. Share. Remind me, and each other, that healing isn't weakness. That choosing yourself isn't selfish. Let this space be more than my story. Let it be ours. Still standing. Still breathing. Still listening.